So before we move on to the next section on using the skill saw, I want to do a little brief talk about electrical safety, more specifically on the power cords we're going to be using. In my hand, I have about a 14 gauge cord, which would be the right size for running a skill saw. This is a glow type plug. And that glow plug is kind of handy. This cord's 100 feet long, plugged over there somewhere. It's nice to know that when I get and plug my skill saw in, I do have power. So these cords are kind of nice to have. But more importantly about this cord, this is a true outdoor cord. And like we kind of talked about on the skill saw, this end right up here is completely sealed. So again, it rains around here. At least it keeps the water from getting inside here. Now, at this end, yes, water can get in. But be safe. Don't let this dangle in the mud puddle. Don't let it get full of mud. Okay, keep it as clean as you can. There are some ways you can prevent that. Plastic baggage around here. There's special locks that do lock in that are waterproof, but a standard extension cord like this 14 gauge cord is one common that we use in our shop around here. So as long as it's sealed like this, it can be an indoor or outdoor cord. And again, gauge size, basically a 14 or 16 gauge wires are what you're going to want to run your skill saw. Now let's take a look at a cord that's designed for indoor use. This started off to be about a 100-foot cord, but over time it became much shorter. I think now it might be, if it's lucky, 20 feet long. So instead of tossing the cord away, went down to the local hardware store, bought some indoor plugs, attached them on here. If you take a look right in the end here, okay, it's not completely sealed. That wire is just sitting inside this plastic coupling. So this is not a true waterproof cord. It is a grounded cord, because if your tools have to be grounded, this is what it should look like. But we're not going to take this cord and use it outside. We'll use it in the shop continually, and you'll see around the shop we'll probably have 5, 6, 7, 8 of these different cords that we've kind of made ourselves. Because again, this was a good 100-foot cord, but it met a few fates, and so we made it shorter. So that's the basic on cord safety. But one last thing is this point right there, as I mentioned in the video. If your tool needs to be grounded, and most of them do, you have to have that ground plug. If your tool is encased in plastic, like that first sidewinder saw I showed you, it was completely in plastic, that's a double insulated tool. It's only going to have 2 prongs, safe to use. But our skill saws have metal. So since they have a metal somewhere on their housing, we need that ground plug. So if these get broken off, let us know. We'll take care of them. And again, check the cords for nicks, cuts. As long as you don't see the wire, go ahead, tape it up, and we'll use it. Let's move on to our next session now, and that's actually using the skill saw. Okay, we're ready to get started to show you how to use this skill saw, but you're going to need a few things first. Number one, you're going to need your tape measure with you. You're going to need the speed square. You're going to need a carpenter's pencil, sharpened by the way. And then down here, at least 1 or 2 sawhorses. One is probably good enough for this project you're going to work on. Your skill saw that has a sharp blade, maintained, oil, it's all ready to go. Our power cord, grounded, lit up, and ready to go. And I'm going to suggest, if you've never used a skill saw before, you're probably going to want to use some type of clamp to hold your material down. This clamp here, just pull the handle, slide it open, bring it down, and this will squeeze onto your material. So again, push, pull here, slide back, and then adjust like so. All right, so getting set up. Our power cord, and I know this may sound ridiculous, but here's how you plug in this cord. In like that. No, we don't. The problem is, I mean, it's connected, guaranteed, But on the job site, we're always moving our saws around. And what happens, it doesn't take much, it becomes disconnected. So, what I want you to do is take the two cords, make a big overhand loop, make it loose, and then connect your plugs. Now as you move that saw around the job site, you get stuck on something, it's not going to pull apart. Alright? Some people like to do a square knot. Square knot is tied like this, like this, like this, and then they bring the two cords together. Now that holds the cord, but here's what happens. This damages our cords. If we can kind of zoom in on here. As I apply tension to this cord, can you see what's happening where it's plugged into? It's crimping. It's crimping. That's going to damage your cord. So let's not do a square knot. Instead, together, a big loop, bring it through, and now connect. And again, once we get pressure on there, you can see there's really not going to be any damage to the cord at the plug end. All right. Let's look at our sawhorses and our material. Let's say we're on the job site, we're framing a house and we need to cut some material. All right, that makes sense, Glenn. Carpenters cut wood for houses. Well, let's say I mark and measure this board. We're going to mark it, well, let's call it 46 inches. Okay? And I'm going to be a good carpenter and mark it square. And then I'm going to grab my skill saw. And I'm going to start cutting my board just like that. Okay? Sharp blade, sharp line, perfect measurement. No. Do not cut in this position. Here's the problem. Let's take a look. The problem we have is our cut point is between two stationary points. What will happen? As we make our cut, our saw is going to cut great to about right there. At that point, the board is going to want to bend down. As the board bends down, it binds the blade. And now you have the potential of that blade sticking and having the saw kick back at you. Not a good thing. First, it scares the heck out of you. And two, you could get hurt. Or three, you're going to damage your cut and waste your time. So, what I always advise you, I don't care what you're cutting, you need an end to fall off when you're cutting. Meaning, if I'm cutting this piece right here, what I should do is adjust my board over, name my sawhorses, so that this is the piece I want. This piece will fall off when it's cut. No chance of any binding. And in this case, you can see when I let go, it has a problem. So as a carpenter, I'd have to hold down this material, run the saw. But for a beginner, you may want to grab the clamp, bring the clamp here, open it up, maybe set it here, clamp it down. Again, just squeeze a bunch of times. That clamps it down, and notice now it's not going to fall anywhere. So the important thing is, you need the end to drop. I don't care what it is, let it drop. Don't ask someone to hold this end up for you. Hey, I'll hold that up for you. Same thing as if it's between the two sawhorses. This person can move, bind the blade, and now you're in trouble. So keep those two things in mind. So just to review, our cord is going to be an overhand knot. Using our material, I'm going to suggest you clamp it down. One sawhorse will work fine for this project, but if you're cutting long pieces, do not let the piece be set between 2 points, like would be here. Okay, let's move on now and see this saw in operation. First thing, sharp carpenter pencil. Okay, learn how to sharpen them. It's not hard to do. And I always recommend for students going to work, sharpen your pencils before you get to the job site, or sharpen the pencils during your break, and have 2 or 3 on you at all times ready to go. Okay, flat carpenter pencil. Now, how do we measure and mark? Seems kind of silly, but we're actually going to show you how to do that. Let's show you how to measure and mark on your board. First thing we're going to do, we take our tape measure, hook the end, slide over, and let's cut this one at 40 feet. So I've locked my tape down. I take my sharp pencil, I come down here, and I mark, and I mark. I make it, I call it a bird's beak, but it actually looks like a V. Can you see that V there? That point right there is exactly my 40 inches. And the reason we do that, let's make another mark down here. Let's say I wanted 36 inches. So we'll come back down here. So there's 36 inches. So if I come in here and make a quick mark like that, roll my tape in. Now I'm an old guy, I may forget, was 36 inches there or there? That's the only reason that we make this bird's beak, or this mark right there. So that was 40 inches. Now, I want to make sure it's exactly 40 inches. So we take our pencil, sharp pencil, put it right on the mark. Set my speed square down, slide my speed square right to the pencil, don't change the angle, and draw that line. And you can see my line goes right through that bird's mark. So again, measure, indicate it with the bird's mark, hold your pencil at an angle, slide up, touch, keep that same angle, and draw your line. Now we're set. Our board's exactly 40 inches long. That's the easy part. All right, we marked and measured our board exactly where we want it. Now we're getting ready to cut. Our sawhorses in this shop are designed to be my knee height. And the reason is, a lot of times I'm cutting using my knee to hold down the lumber, or I use my hand and hold down the lumber. But I've been doing it many years. If you're new to this, it's all right to go ahead and grab some type of clamp like I showed you before. There's how I'm going to cut. Bring yourself about 5 or 6 inches away from the sawhorse, and just put the clamp back here out of your way. Now still get used to using your hand to hold it down. Alright, that's our setup. Now let's show you the action we do for actually cutting our material. Okay, so our saw is plugged in, ready to go. We do have our saw set for full depth because we're cutting at least 2x4 material set at a 90 degrees. So now, my position is going to be, I throw the cord behind me, I get a good balance, and I'm kind of hunched over. I don't want to be standing straight up. But I need to be down here because all my attention needs to be right down here where the saw blade isn't lined up with the pencil mark. Now we'll have a close-up shot in this moment. We'll be having a close-up shot of this for you to see in just a moment. What I want to show you now is the action I'm doing on the saw. Number one, when I'm cutting, I'm not going to have my saw flat. Instead, I bring my saw up, probably about 15-degree angle or so, and I'm letting it rest on the shoe out here. So again, see that angle? 2 fingers fits underneath it. So now, what I'm going to do, I keep that same angle. I'm going to turn on my saw, I'm going to work into it, and as I make my cut, I can make small little adjustments back and forth until my saw is perfectly straight. If I cut down here and try to get it straight, well, first of all, I can't see anything, so I got to be down here. But if I'm up here, I can look right down the saw blade and see the pencil mark. So let's watch it in action. Saw comes up, rests, turn it on. what you saw me do here is you saw me hold my saw at an angle, and I went in just making short cuts. And I'm watching that pencil line because I want to leave my pencil line there. When I got to about this point on the 2x4, this was perfectly straight. So now I just took the saw, dropped it straight down, and it follows that path, push forward, and complete my cut. Two things, okay? Again, we start at an angle. Second thing is, this saw is heavy. When I get out here, the saw, if there's not a lot of wood on the side, is going to want to tilt. Let's see what happens when we make that cut. See what happened? The weight of the saw made it tilt down, and it actually got stuck inside here. Now, is that dangerous? No. But at the same time, it doesn't give me a very clean cut on this side. So let's just see it in action one more time. Now your line of sight is coming down this part of the blade right here. This part from here to this side of the saw, we want to keep this side. So everything on this side of the pencil line, we're going to get rid of. What our challenge is going to be is to have this side of the blade follow that pencil line, leave a tiny bit of the pencil line left, cut straight and cut square. Easy. Not for the first time, but we'll get used to it. So let's look at it in action.